Welcome to the Balanced Virtual Trainer Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness, as well as your balance ambassador. We have a guest, somebody that I've got to know over the last year, somebody that is a hustler, grinder in the fitness industry. Out here in Mesa, Arizona is where I met her. I have Aviana Garcia on here to share her story, how she's moved here from a different city and just hit the ground running. Aviana, thanks for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start it off. Same question every guest gets asked. Can you kind of share your background, what you're doing right now in the health and fitness industry?
Definitely. So I am a personal trainer. I currently live in Tempe, Arizona. So I'm training out of Mesa. I train clients one-on-one. I teach boot camp classes. And in addition to that, I'm also working in the beverage industry, working on just getting, healthy beverages out. And I've worked both in event marketing and in sales. So it's good. I stay busy.
Nice. Yeah, I bet. And one of the areas that I wanted to touch on too is before you moved out here to Tempe and worked out in the Phoenix area, what were you doing before? I believe you owned or you worked in a yoga studio?
Yes. So I actually owned a yoga studio back in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I'm from.
Wow.
It was a very private studio, and unfortunately, it happened right before COVID. So, that was a little hiccup there. But I was able to pick yoga back up when I moved here, and I was teaching yoga for a little bit here as well.
Nice. And you started doing one-on-one group as well. What was that like, doing yoga before, moving to a new city, and then getting into kind of a different area of the health and wellness area in fitness training?
It was definitely a transition, but in a good way. When I moved from Santa Fe, it was scary going to a big city, not knowing anybody.
Yeah.
But what I realized when I came out here, and I came out here just to visit, I never thought I would live in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I recognized was how connected people were and how willing people were to work together to help each other grow. Mm-hmm. And it was something I wasn't necessarily used to. Nothing bad to say about back home, but there just wasn't a whole lot going on in terms of growth opportunities, especially in the fitness industry. So, I would say when I moved out here, that was the first thing I noticed. And I knew this is where I had to be to make that jump and really just pursue my passion.
It's a good point. Very good point that you bring up. I've noticed that as well, just being out here, that the fitness industry is booming out here. Tons of gyms. You can literally, from where anybody lives, throw a rock and hit 5 different gym chains and tons of studios. Tons of different independent facilities popping up, and it's growing out here. I think that Phoenix in general, the whole area, there's a wide variety of populations, demographics. I think that really plays into why there's so many locations. I think that I know that when I typically talk to a family or even friends that don't live here, they think it's a retirement area, it's a retirement community. It's like, no, it's a booming city, and that's part of why I feel like the fitness industry is growing. You agree?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, if you've been to Santa Fe is definitely the place you settle down. Like I said, there's really not a lot going on. But one thing I love about Arizona in general is there is something for everybody out here.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to health and fitness. I mean, you got the lake, you got, people rollerblading outside, you got people, you got gyms on every corner. It's just like you said. I mean, there's no reason for people to not be out and about doing something, for their health.
Agree. With now the last 2 years, so kind of painting a picture here, you were doing yoga in Santa Fe, moved out to Arizona, and you probably moved in a unique time. I'm trying to recall when it was that you and I met, but over the last 2 years, fitness industry has evolved, changed. There's online, there's virtual training, there's hybrid, there's still working in person. What was it like for you over the last 2 years?
Yeah, I guess I should add too. I was also a manager at a gym back home,
Mm,
so and
hmm
I did have my yoga studio. That was more of like my side hustle, and then I was also managing full time at a gym. So that so the past 2 years, let's rewind. So the past 2 years, going from managing a gym to also learning the business side of things, first time having to get a business license, first time having to, figure out how to even run my own studio,
hmm
um, to COVID happening and me entering the
hmm
fitness industry at the worst possible time. It was definitely a wild ride.
hmm
Um, New Mexico was one of the last places to really open up. So that's another thing that kind of drew me to Arizona. So when I came out here, it was awesome because there was just, like I said, so many different avenues that I could go. And I
hmm
just wanted to be a part of all of them. So yeah, I started teaching classes. I really enjoy yoga. So I started teaching yoga classes, boot camp classes. And that's totally different from one-on-one training. One-on-one
Yeah.
is a little more intimate. You get to work with that client, and their personal individual goals versus like a class is more motivating people on a, how can we all be motivated together like as a team? And some people need that. Some people need the team aspect.
Yeah.
Um, and then, as far as like sports and everything, that's a whole nother thing. That's like pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. So over the past 2 years, I just think it's been more eye-opening for me than anything, just to see all of the different ways that people get motivated, stay motivated, and just stay fit.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you bring up a very good point with there's so much to wellness, fitness, exercise. There's so many different elements. There's so many pieces that you can add to your training, how you work with clients, the mental edge, different types of modalities. I believe I saw one of your stories, I don't know how recent, and correct me if I'm wrong, it might have been the last week, you were some type of, it was like a dance.
Yeah, I did a shuffling class.
There you go. Yeah. So I feel like that's fitness. That's working out, and
Oh,
that's
definitely. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, it's a way to move your body, and that's one thing I try to preach to people is that, fitness and getting healthy doesn't have to mean run on a treadmill for an hour for you to lose weight. Like
hmm
there's so many other alternatives. You can join a dance class, you can, like I said, go rollerblading, you can I don't know, go cliff jumping. There's so many things like you can do just to stay active, go swimming, like
hmm
I think that's one of my favorite parts is just showing people like there's not just one way to do things. There's multiple ways to get to their goals and their healthy state of mind even.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good segue now to the mental process. And even I feel like those elements of switching careers, switching cities, there's definitely a mental component of it that I'd like to dig into right here because there are many people that enter the fitness industry, leave after a year, leave after 6 months. They're not making the money they thought they were. The hours were different for a wide variety of reasons they leave. And especially if you don't have that mental edge of it, that willingness to hustle, to grind within the industry, to try different things, to not just stay in your one lane of, I'm just going to do one-on-one. Maybe I should try small group. Maybe I should try group fitness. There's so many pieces a part of that. What is your outlook when you're going through this, or even just sharing what you believe your own outlook is on work, on the fitness industry, all those pieces? What is that?
Yeah, I mean, the fitness industry is ever changing, and you have to be willing to adapt. Especially, if you're going to enter into the industry, like you have to be prepared that you're going to have months that are booming and you're going to have months that just aren't. And what do you do with that time in between? You have to be willing to, learn new skills, new strategies, be able to diverse yourself in different types of things. I was actually just talking with a trainer recently, and we were talking about this specifically, and he's actually going into also stretch therapy and, doing that as like another side hustle in addition to training. And I think that's so awesome because he's saying that he has clients that actually go into that do both. They train with him and they do stretch therapy. So it's like another little thing of income that he discovered just through like the passion of being in the health and fitness and how can I help more people, but also still make money, and he's helping the same people, but he's helping them on a higher level than even before. So I think just being willing to learn new skills and to find out what your clients really want and need, and just being able to either offer that or, recommend people that do it.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's a very good outlook on the industry. And I mean, despite I'm going to share a story right now with an individual that, rest in peace, he left this world. But before that, he was the powerlifting coach for the Thai national team, has a powerlifting background, one of the best powerlifting coaches. And typically when we think of powerlifting, we think, oh, it's like just heavy metal, lifting heavy weight, just yelling and screaming. But he would tell you, no matter what it is, as long as there's a purpose, it could be kettlebells, it could be suspension training, it could be a wide variety of things. If there's a purpose behind it, do it. And I think that that's the outlook that more people should share. Yeah, look at things, see if it can help your clients, if it could help your business, and be willing to adapt to them. I think that that's one of the pieces that some fitness pros, they get stuck in. They get stuck in that just one route. I'm just going to do this. And then if it doesn't work, then they blame, it's something else. They'll blame their clients not coming back, or they'll blame something else. But you got to adapt. You got to start that process. And with adapting and overcoming some of these challenges, do you have any stories that you feel like would be along the same lines of maybe a challenge that came up, or that a story that shows you overcoming something?
Well, I mean, I think to piggyback off what you were saying, some people do just give up in the beginning, but that's where finding that person's motivation, that's like the challenge within you. And sometimes people have questions that you don't know the answer to. So that's where you kind of get to experiment and find out something new. And then that gives you the ability to help more clients on that level. Maybe it's actually a trend that people really just don't know. So if a client comes to you and, with an issue, or they don't know something, it gives you that opportunity to like preach that to more than one client.
Yeah.
So I just think that was a really great point. But as far as challenges go, I actually did do a bodybuilding competition as well. It was bikini, and I did 2 different shows. And I think that's kind of where my interest sparked in the fitness industry. I just like saw these women, get on stage, confidence, and they looked good, like their physique and everything. And I was like, I know that's what I want to do. And I actually went and talked to a coach. I was afraid. I didn't know what I was doing, but the coach actually told me that I wouldn't be ready for the show that I wanted to do. And I had it in my mind though, like, I need to do this because I am ready now. And I want to do it now. So I actually just ended up training myself. I wasn't getting enough progress, within that time frame. And I ended up hiring another coach last minute who was willing to help me. And I went for it. And was I the best looking person on the stage? Definitely not. But I think sometimes that's what you have to do, or that's where you even have to guide your clients, is like, you may not be ready, like physically, but the mental aspect, that's where it all comes in. Like, if you are ready mentally, you need to just go for it and try it.
Yeah.
And I have so many clients that come to me, especially in class, they're afraid to even take a class with me. And I just tell them, like, if you can't get through 2 rounds, don't worry about that. If you get through 4 exercises, you did more than you did yesterday.
Yeah.
And that kind of puts things in perspective for them. And then they end up joining. And it's so cool to watch, because eventually you see them finish that 2-round class and you're like, remember when you said that you couldn't even do, anything?
Yeah.
It's all mental.
Oh yeah, I think there's so much to unpack there. I think the first thing is that oftentimes we forget about that barrier to even just start to get to that class. So even if they just get there and they start it, and yeah, they just get 2 rounds, whatever it is, they just get started. Awesome. Just think how much it took for them. I think as fit pros we forget because fitness is a part of our life. We have no we need to find our next workout. We need to get it going, but there's people that they just have trouble just getting started, showing up. And so those accomplishments should be talked about with clients all the time. And that's like one of the things that I preach with friends, even though I don't do one-on-one training anymore. I just say, if somebody's that I know is getting back into it, you don't need to go 100%. You don't need to
Yeah.
have the best workout of your life right off the bat. There's a overwhelming majority of people that just don't exercise. So just get in get a 40%, get a 60% workout. Just show up, do something, and make it to the next one. That's what we want to see. Just make it to the next one.
Yep. Or give yourself some grace, and even just if you need that rest day, take that rest day, and then give it another go the next day. I mean, that's part of that mental game that you have to play with yourself. You have to make sure that you just are listening to your motivation, your motivated cues.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think a part of hopefully people not feeling deterred is we see a lot of pushing through pain. We see a lot of, it needs to be the hardest workout of your life. And no, a lot of the times my workouts are not the hardest workouts of my life. It's just doing a lot of the basics. And
and it's funny you say that, because one of my biggest tips for people is do the basic workouts. It seems so like, well, why doesn't everyone do that? But like, not enough people preach that the basics are like key. And if you do even just like 3 basic workouts 2 times a week, like you will see results. You may not see it as fast as you want, but you will see it because of the consistency and because you're doing workouts that just are proven to work. Squats are proven to work. Deadlifts are proven to work. Pull-ups. Those are simple.
Oh yeah. And I mean, we've talked about even in person with machines. I do machines when I'll do a machine that I'm not doing all of them. I'll do a machine when I go to the gym. If I do, or if I'm on vacation and there's a hotel gym, that's all that's there's machines. Machines are great.
Machines are so underrated. I agree.
Yeah, I think those are great places to start for people. So it's good advice there for individuals. And I mean, just getting in and even just working with clients for fit pros listening in, that this type of discussion is a good one to have, opening up those communication lines. And even just, I think, having that talk of saying, just look what you did. You showed up today, you came here and you worked hard, and not worrying about if you're drenched in sweat, if it was the hardest work. I think those are big steps for working with individuals.
Definitely.
Well, as we continue to get along in this podcast, there's one more question I want to ask you before we get to the last one. And it has to do, I think, with marketing yourself. You mentioned before that you work with a little marketing, and I do follow you on Instagram, and I think you do a great job with your reels, with your posts. You include inspirational aspects of it, and you put yourself out there with it. And to me, you're very confident with it. Yourself and putting that into your posts. What advice do you have for fit pros that might be struggling with those elements? I feel like that's something that if you could share a piece in that'd be great.
Thank you. I really appreciate that a lot, because confidence has been one thing that I've struggled with the most. And when I tell people that, they don't believe me because of my social media. And I think that's just where it starts, is like pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And what I mean by that is just try something new, try something that you've never tried before. I think a lot of times we let fear come into our heads and our heart, and there may be things that we want to do. For example, that shuffling class that I recently took, I was scared. I was like, there's going to be a bunch of pros over here. I don't know what I'm doing. And there were people that were way better than me, but I had to like suck up my pride a little bit and say, you know what, I'm just going to let go and I'm just going to try it. And if I don't do good today, I'm going to come back tomorrow. And I think that's one of the best things you can do for yourself is just try new things, and you'll find out if you love it or if you hate it.
Yeah.
But you'll never know if you never try.
Agree. It's just starting out.
And I think that just builds confidence over time.
Agreed. I think that I even have like an athlete mentality for it. Might say like is understanding that you're not going to be good at everything from the start. It takes time.
Nobody's good at anything at the day one.
Yeah. So you got to start somewhere. Well, good insight right there. I feel like I do know actually for pros that do overthink the social media aspect of putting themselves out there, but it is part of being in the fitness industry. People want to see how you train people, how they want to know about their fitness instructors. They want to follow them. They want to see how they live their lives, what their personality is like. And so just taking that process of starting, see where it goes, grow from there. And I think that just goes a long way. But as we get to the podcast closing tips now, this is always a great way to get more insight from the individual on the podcast, get their insight based off their experiences, what they believe and what they see for the future of the industry. So Aviana, what are 2 closing thoughts on the future of the fitness industry that you'd like to share?
Future of the industry. I think social media in general has proven that there's not just one way to do things. So I think that's something to just, food for thought, really. Yeah. Just know that there's not going to be just one way. You will always have people saying what worked for them. Yep. But what really matters is what works for you. So don't be afraid to try something. And then if it doesn't work for you, try something else. But at least give that one thing a good go. Give it 4-6 weeks, see how, if it's a fitness plan, give it 6 weeks. And then if it doesn't work, then that's when you make a change. But I think one of the biggest things people forget is they'll try something for 2 weeks and then it doesn't work and then they quit. So you gotta give it a good go first and know that you showed up for that, Yep. That would be my first one. And the second thing is, one thing I guess like a good tip I actually was reading the book recently. And for the mental aspect of the health and fitness industry, just because I think that's really grown over the years and I see it continuing to be a hot topic, is stop asking why you're here, why you're at this certain point in your life. Because I know I fall victim to it. We get in our heads, we compare ourselves to each other, especially with social media. So stop asking why, start asking what. Yeah. What are you going to do? What's next? Versus why am I here? Why did I do this? Why didn't I do this? So ask what, not why.
That's good. That's a good one. Good piece of advice there. I like the first one as well with trying it for, give it 6 weeks, give it more time. And what works for one person most likely potentially won't work for another person. That's so true. I just talked with somebody today about Instagram and just asking them why they weren't on Instagram. And it was based off of something that they were talking with somebody that does marketing before. And I was like, that doesn't really click in my head about, just focusing on one, especially when there's these platforms, a lot of them are connected and you can cross utilize it in different ways. So just giving things a try and just starting the process is so important. But before we sign off on this episode, Aviana, can you give your social media links, website, any of that kind of good stuff?
Definitely, yes. So you can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Aviana Inspo, Aviana Inspo. And that's pretty much it, actually.
Good. I like how you threw out the TikTok, and I feel like you're probably the first guest that had mentioned that, and it's a really popular social media site. So glad you put it in there.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing some great insight, sharing your story. That's really important, and I really appreciate you coming on, taking your time, and being my guest.
Thanks for having me.